only about 9 hectares of hemp being grown right now in the entire island of Japan. And most of that is in that particular province, and most of that is used for ceremonial purposes.
That's world traveler Jean Lotus, who recently got back from Japan. This is the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast. My name is Eric Herlock. Today, we're going to learn a little bit about hemp in the land of the rising sun. Last month, the NIHC, the National Industrial Hemp Council of America, took a delegation of American hempsters to Japan for the inaugural Tokyo International Hemp Conference. Jean Lotus was a part of that delegation, as was Robin Destiche from Konopi, US. I will be talking to both of them to hear their impressions of hemp in Japan and what sorts of opportunities might be available to US producers. We will also hear my interview with Patrick Atagi from the NIHC about how the trip came together and what the goals of the trip were. All that and more, but first a few words from our sponsors. Today's show is brought to you with support from Americhon Cast Hemp, Pennsylvania's premier hemp construction company. Americhon will be at Green Build, the largest green building conference in the world. This year it's taking place in Philadelphia, November 12th through the 15th. Americhon will be joined by I&D Hemp, Hempwood, and Hemptexture. Americhon recently secured $100,000 in investment funds from Ben Franklin Technology Partners to support the first hemp-based home in the Lehigh Valley, aiming for net zero embodied carbon. It's a single-story, accessible, and high-efficiency home sold on the open market. You can learn more at americhon.com. Today's show is also brought to you with generous support from I&D Hemp in Fort Benton, Montana, where they believe in the goodness of hemp. I&D Hemp is a family-owned, mission-driven industrial hemp feed, food, and fiber company. Next week in Great Falls, Montana, I&D Hemp will be hosting the Goodness of Hemp Summit. So look for my reporting from Montana coming up in the next couple of weeks. Today's show is also made possible with support from Forever Green, distributors of the KP4 hemp cutter, introducing a revolution in hemp harvesting and setting a new standard for harvesting quality, speed, and efficiency. The KP4 prepares hemp for ideal retting and easy on-field tedding, raking, and baling. Easy to maintain and designed to withstand the punishments of hemp harvesting. The KP4 hemp cutter, available only at hempcutter.com. All right, got a couple of news nuggets for you this week. This first one I am reading at honeywell.com. The headline says, Honeywell and SGP Bioenergy to develop plant-based biochemicals, reducing industry's reliance on fossil fuels. The story coming out of Charlotte, North Carolina says that Honeywell and SGP Bioenergy today announced that they were working together to develop new, scalable technology to convert industrial hemp and other plant-based material into biochemicals that can be used to produce plastics and other everyday items, offering an alternative to chemicals produced from fossil fuels. And, the story, which is essentially a press release, goes on to give a few more details. I'll put a link to this on the show page. I wanted to also direct your attention to a story at hempbuildmag.com. This was actually written by one of our guests today, Jean Lotus. The headline reads, U.S. hopes green construction awakens Japan's hemp industry. And this is a great snapshot of the trip that we're going to hear about today with our guests, Jean and Robin and Patrick. But I just wanted to put a link up there to Jean's story that she wrote. It's a nice long piece that goes into way more detail about the trip with some great photography too. So, click on that. It's on the show page at lancasterfarming.com. All right, so that's our news nuggets for this week. Turning to our main event, which is talking about this trip to Japan that took place at the end of September last month. I was invited on this trip, and I deliberated for a fairly long time whether or not I could go, right? The trip itself was funded by the RAP program through the USDA. So for me, it wasn't a matter of the cost of the trip. It was really the timing of it. There's a lot going on in my life at this point that I wasn't able to go to the other side of the world for a week. So anyway, I really wanted to go because, who turns down a free trip to Japan? Well, I do. So anyway, I want to learn about hemp in Japan, so I want to talk to people who went on the trip. So today we're going to talk to Jean Lotus and Robin Destiche, two people that I've gotten to know over the years through this work here on the podcast. So we'll hear about the trip from Jean and Robin. But first, we're going to listen to a short interview I conducted with Patrick Atagi from the National Industrial Hemp Council. I spoke to him the week before the group went to Japan. So we're going to hear all that today as I live vicariously through these people who went to Japan while I stayed home. Hi, Patrick. Good to talk to you again. So the National Industrial Hemp Council is sponsoring a trip to Japan next week. Can you tell me a bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the National Industrial Hemp Council and the USDA Regional Agricultural Promotion Program through the USDA Foreign Agricultural Service. Funding it through their new RAP grant. So we're very excited about it and,
Cool.
Very much helping the hemp industry. So we're really excited.
Patrick, will you give me an introduction? Will you tell me who you are and what it is that you do?
Yeah, Patrick Atagi with the National Industrial Hemp Council, President and CEO. And our goal is to market and create a market for hemp domestically and globally. We're also there to protect the customer, the consumer, through our NIHC Verify program, where we do testing, having accredited laboratories do testing for, the chemical side of the equation, but it's also, on the, potentially if needed, on the, the fiber feed, animal feed side of the equation. Working together works. Our slogan is working together works. This trip to Japan, we've got 28 U.S. delegates from, across the country and the spectrum, and when we work together, it just works, Eric. I mean, the hemp industry thrives when we work together.
Cool. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing more about the trip, and thanks again for sharing some time with me, Patrick.
Yeah,
it's
we're
great
looking to have you on some of our trips in the future, Eric. We're not one and done. We're just getting started, so it's awesome.
Cool. All right. Thank you. Jean Lotus from Hemp Build Mag. Welcome back to our podcast. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm very excited to be here, and I'm doing great.
Yeah. Maybe you're jet lagged a little bit because you recently got back from a trip to Japan, and that's what we're going to talk to you about today.
Yes, super exciting to participate in this trip that was funded by a grant from USDA RAPP. This is specifically for trade journeys that can lead to foreign purchase and relationships of U.S. agricultural products.
Right. Okay.
We learned a lot about that, actually, and what is an agricultural product and what is not, especially here with the building materials. And, I pretty much specialize in building materials.
Yeah, well, let's back up a little bit and introduce yourself a little bit for us, and then we'll get into what you saw over there.
Sure. So my name's Jean Lotus, and I'm the publisher of Hemp Build Magazine and also the publisher of the Hemp Building Directory. I'm working on my 2025 directory. We had 700 international companies in the last directory. So excited about that and the growth that we've seen in hemp building. We in Japan during the trip, we actually got to visit one of the first hempcrete houses built in Japan. And we actually met the builder who showed up at the conference and talked to him. I had already sort of observed him on Facebook. And one of the differences between, well, I'm going off on a tangent here, but one of the things about building materials and hempcrete and hemp is that there are two sort of groups of people that come into it. One group is people who are actually in the building space, construction, green construction space. Some of them are, and also the DIY people who are what Cameron McIntosh calls motivated owner builders, capable, motivated owner builders who are willing to go through all the crap to get a hempcrete house built. With their local building departments and everything else. But there is, a lot of people are just fascinated by it and they get into construction and building because of hempcrete.
Right. It's a gateway building material.
It's a gateway drug. Yes, absolutely. And so I was really glad that the guy that we met in Japan, and, it is such a nascent industry, and I will tell you why. In a minute, but the guy we met in Japan is a professional construction guy, and he builds all kinds of things, apartment buildings, does interiors, does exteriors, construction, GC. And I always love it when those folks get involved because they understand some of the challenges that they're going to face and what this material needs to do to work for them.
Right. And they don't, maybe they don't have the hempster blinders on, where
exactly.
Hemp can do everything. Like they're a little more realistic and pragmatic.
Yes, yeah. Exactly.
All right. So you went on this trip to Japan in your capacity as the founder and editor of Hemp Build Magazine. You were asked to go.
That's correct. And also as a board member of US Hemp Building Association.
Okay. Right. And so the trip.
Ray Catterley was also on the trip. He's the president.
Okay.
And there was a handful of different, Patrick did a really good job getting all kinds of folks there.
That's Patrick Atagi from the National Industrial Hemp Council of America.
That's correct.
And that they're the ones who organized the trip. And
that's correct.
A delegation.
And that is part of this USDA Foreign Agricultural Service RAP program.
Right.
And so I found out a couple interesting things. First of all, Japan imports about 25% of their agricultural products from the United States. It's a huge import partner for us. A lot of that has to do with the relationship of Japan and the United States after World War II, and especially with hemp. In 1948, the United States basically slammed their own rules about any kind of cannabis plant onto Japan with this cannabis control law.
All right, because the U.S., what was that called? They set up some sort of government over there after World War II, right?
That's correct. Yeah, they set up a new government over there, but they also basically took their prohibition of cannabis and imposed it on the Japanese. And what we did find out over there was the really important role of the industrial hemp plant in Japan before this happened.
Yeah, well, tell me about that. What was it like?
Well, one of the things about hemp in Japan is that it has an ancient religious significance. The Shinto religion, which is the animist pre-Buddhist religion, and both the Japanese are very comfortable with being Shinto and Buddhist, and most of the religious sites that we visited had both a Shinto shrine and a Buddhist temple there. But the Shinto religion has a specific role for hemp, and every Shinto shrine that you will see will have a big rope hanging over the entrance. And that is a repository. It has to be made of hemp. It's a repository for a sacred presence, like a protecting godlike presence, to come into the rope and protect the shrine from evil spirits. It's also used to put ropes around sacred trees, around sacred statues, etc. So this sacred version of the sacred use of hemp is actually what is still alive of the previous hemp industry. The other thing is that sumo wrestlers, the very highest level of sumo wrestlers, only the top are allowed to wear a hemp belt.
Oh, wow.
It's something that only like Muhammad Ali or the very, very top wrestlers can wear
Okay.
this hemp belt for the same sacred reasons. So basically, if we're looking at hemp in Japan, um, one thing that happened is that the cannabinoid uses of hemp and marijuana were have been changed and altered in new laws that took place in December of 2023.
Hmm.
So that is the reason that the Japan Industrial Hemp Association held this first Tokyo conference. It was very focused on cannabinoids. That is the first sort of uh, place that the laws have changed, and basically they were getting getting people together to talk about cannabinoid uses of
Hmm.
hemp. Now they were talking a lot about CBD, and a lot of the things that we heard here in the United States in 2018 and 2019 were being voiced at this conference. Unfortunately, things like it can cure Alzheimer's, the things that
Ah, right.
CBD companies get a letter from the FDA about. People were making those
Okay.
claims at this conference. We've heard all that cancer cures cancer, blah, blah, blah. So that was a little, it's a learning curve for them to figure out what exactly, and as everyone has pointed out, the research is not there. The research is not there, pro or con, right, for the endocannabinoid system. So the industrial uses of hemp were spoken about a little bit by Patrick, and Morris Spiegel was there. Patrick pointed out that while this conference was, a lot about the role of CBD, the industrial uses of hemp were, exponentially larger.
Right.
And so we're excited about that. Also, the idea of hemp protein. Paul Benham was there from Hemp Plastic Company, but as you know, he's spent 25 years doing hemp protein bars and doing the superfood hemp world,
Right.
as well as doing cannabinoid stuff. So, so that was great. I mean, it was fantastic. So, to me, visiting this hempcrete house that had been built in Japan, and also finding out about just these magical, this very respected role that the industrial hemp plant played in the Shinto religion was really interesting, and said to me when I saw also the way the Japanese have really embraced all of the United Nations sustainability goals for construction, etc. I really see some opportunities there with hemp building materials just because of the decarbonization. The other thing is that we did visit a beautiful museum. It was a museum of a family business that they had been shoguns. Starting in 1869, they basically grew, processed, and sold industrial hemp for ordinary uses such as ropes, all the regular, sandals, etc. And then they processed it and they sent it down the river to what was then called Edo, Tokyo, now called Tokyo. So it was used, that we did see the former industrial uses of hemp, and the fact it was not lost on us, and everybody had a little chuckle since, hempen is not easy. And the museum had a thing about how this family was so wealthy from industrial hemp that they had started the regional bank, and they had like the vault for the bank and all this money, in cases, ancient money. And the industrial hemp was such a profitable business that this family had
They did
been able
okay.
to open the regional bank. So that certainly was exciting to see. And but yeah, there are only about 9 hectares of hemp being grown right now in the entire island of Japan, and most of that is in that particular province, and most of that is used for ceremonial purposes.
Right.
Oh, and
Okay.
the ash from burning the ash from burning hemp is used in fireworks. Evidently,
Oh.
it is among the best sort of, it works very well with the combustibles
Hmm.
for
All right.
fireworks. But you can see that those are tiny little industries, right?
Will you be headed up to the Montana Hemp Summit this month?
I will not be going there, but we
Okay.
are doing a great building event down in San Marcos, Texas, October 24th and 25th.
Oh, cool.
And because we got some USDA funding for that, we are able to offer it for $99.
Oh, that's
So
amazing. Tell
it's
me more
a
about that, and
2 day.
then we'll put a link on the
Yeah.
show page for it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a 2 day event from Hemp Build School, which is, we administer it through Hemp Build Magazine. And basically, it's also a a way for Texas farmers to connect with some of the builders from Central and Latin America. We're having some people come from Costa Rica, Honduras, and Colombia who are doing ecotourism, and Mexico.
Okay.
You probably know Stephen Clark pretty well.
No, I don't know Stephen Clark.
Uh, yeah, Heaven Grown. So they do fantastic. If you look at their website, oh my
Okay.
God, it's just
Maybe you
like
can
bamboo
introduce me
and
to Stephen
hemp
Clark.
eco cabins in the Yucatan that are just so fabulous. So yeah, using hemp for ecotourism to build with. Um, uh, we had a group from Honduras that came through 2 years ago that two members of their opposing parties, like a Democrat and a Republican from their congressional body, came through, and they actually announced that they were trying to build 1,000 homes, and they were going to use hempcrete. So the idea is, let's get them the hemp, right, from Texas. So they're going to be giving a presentation. Tom Ross Messler and Anthony Dente will also be talking about the International Residential Code, and the how you could now use hempcrete to build with it.
Right. What are the dates of that?
That's
Event?
October 24th and 25th. It's
Okay.
in San Marcos, Texas, which
San
is
Marcos.
it's where Texas State University is. It's a less than an hour from Austin. We're actually going to have a group that goes to Austin to visit the ADU that's built there in
Okay.
Austin at Hempcrete, the first ADU. An ADU is a accessory dwelling unit. So that's a big thing on the West Coast. It's like basically building a granny flat in your backyard.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So it's a Carl Gradick, who is a local natural builder in Austin, was asked by a woman who is a cannabis legislator. I think she's a former state rep, but she wanted to build this hempcrete house in her backyard, a little, a cabin cottage, and it's finished, and it was a challenge to him because it has all these like legacy oak trees that it builds around and
Oh,
stuff.
wow.
So we're going to have a tour of that.
Okay.
And we feel like Austin, Texas is like the perfect spot for building with hempcrete. So, and they are just loosening their laws about building accessory dwelling units. So
Okay.
we're excited about that.
Yeah, you mentioned Ray Catterley. He was on the trip, and he's from Texas. He's involved in all of the
That's
building
that's
down there,
correct.
right?
That's
Okay.
correct. Yeah. And
Yeah.
he's the head of the Hemp Build School. So
Right.
he's
Okay.
organizing this whole thing.
Yeah, I met him at a hempcrete workshop here, one of Cameron's workshops, like back in 2020. So
Yes, I
yeah,
know. I think that got him on this path.
yeah.
Uh,
So cool. All
yeah.
right. Well, Gene, it's really great to talk to you. I'm glad you made it home from
Thank you,
Japan
Eric.
safely.
Yes. Oh, it was wonderful. And I gotta say, it was a, you know, really well organized, a very tight ship, and extremely, extremely just a great way to connect with folks there that are in the industry and to figure out ways that we can all cooperate.
Yeah, we're all in it together, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Cool. Well, Jean, thanks again. It's great to talk to you.
Oh, you are welcome. I'm excited to follow up with this, and thanks for all that you do
Yeah. Well,
for
you
the
you
hemp
wrote a
industry.
you wrote a great long piece about your trip, and I'll share a link to that story on our show
Thank you.
page. Yeah.
Yes.
And that's at hempbuild.mag, right?
No, no, no.
Oh,
Hempbuildmag.com.
oh, there it is. hempbuildmag.com. All right.
Yes.
Cool.
Awesome. Okay. Thanks a lot, Eric.
Robin Destiche from Konopi, US. Welcome back to the podcast, and welcome back to the United States because you were traveling lately. Hello, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for that nice welcoming. I was in Japan last week and got back on Saturday, and just the last couple days, a little extra R&R from
Yeah.
the jet lag. So I'm still moving a little slow, but
Right.
I'm glad we could connect today.
You're like a time traveler now, right? Like, didn't you leave Japan later than you arrived back home?
Yeah, that kind of played with the mind a little bit. I left Japan. We left a little late. I left at 4 p.m. and then I got into DC at 3:30 the same day on Saturday. You leave Saturday, you get back Saturday. So
Hopefully your flux capacitor was fine. Everything was fine. So yeah, you were over there. You were on the trip. It was organized here from the National Industrial Hemp Council, I guess in conjunction with the Thai Industrial Hemp Trade Association. And it was like a week-long trip to Japan. It was a part conference and some tours and things. Can you sort of tell me what it was?
yeah, absolutely. And I would offer some gratitude out there first before we get going to NIHC for the trip. Patrick Atagi's group, thank you for bringing us over there. And then the USDA WRAP program, which we're working on these foreign market ag commodities. And the Thai Hemp Association, they were out there at the same time, and so we were on this trip with them. And they had planned out quite a bit of our travels as they are very familiar with Japan. So really, it's a thank you for the opportunity to go out there. It was really cool.
And there was a whole itinerary that you went through. Can you tell me some of the highlights?
Yeah, we went out a little bit into the mountains, a couple hours, and we went to this fiber facility, Golden Hemp Fiber, where they do acreage for textile quality hemp, long fiber. It's all done by hand. It's harvested by hand. They do the process by hand with water retting. And they make this beautiful golden fiber, and they even held a little workshop for us so we could, do it in the process that they do it. So we took some fiber and, kind of hand scraped it to make it a nice golden fiber to varying degrees. They did a nice presentation, a bit about their market and their history, long history of working with hemp. It's culturally, prevalent in the religion.
How far back does it go?
Thousands of years. And you find the ropes are made of the hemp fibers in the temples. So it's still in the culture from a fibers perspective, and now it's in the culture from a CBD perspective. And there's an interest more for the grains as well in the future, I think. But there's a knowledge of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was exciting to go to the facility and get a sense of what they've been doing and for how long, but small acreage.
Is there a marijuana stigma attached to the plant over there?
Yeah, because it's zero tolerance on THC. So in all the conversations we were having with, would-be growers or potential growers on the island, they're very sensitive to the THC. There may be some opportunities in the future to look at genetics that might suit their market, but no THC is what you're going to need to grow there. And, if you were to send commodities over there, you would be able to also get down to no THC.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Okay. So tell me more. Back to the itinerary. Yeah.
Right. So After the Golden Fiber, we headed into Tokyo and stayed in the city for a few days, which was really special. I lived abroad and traveled abroad a number of years. So I've been to a lot of different cities, and Tokyo itself was quite beautiful.
Had you been there before?
I've not been there before.
Okay.
No,
What's it
it was very
like?
clean.
Describe what you see when you get there.
Yeah, it's a lot of buildings and a lot of highway. It's a very densely packed city, but it's very clean. The thing that stands out is how clean it is, and also what's really stood out to me was, um, how well dressed the people are walking around the city. A lot of suits. Just very nicely dressed professionals during the day. Um, that was also quite striking, but different than the culture here, where it's a bit more casual. I mean, I myself, I can wear t-shirt and shorts to work if I want to.
Right. But you see pictures of like New York City at the turn of the century and everyone's dressed up. Yeah. Like everyone's wearing a
Right,
hat, maybe. That sort of like level of properness that that doesn't exist in our culture now, but it still is present in Japan, you're saying?
right. Yeah, that's exactly it. So, definitely had a great respect for that culture, and the history of that culture over there. So being in Tokyo is a really neat opportunity. As I mentioned, very clean, very welcoming and hospitable people. So, um, really can't say enough about the actual stay there. It was awesome.
I've seen pictures of Mount Fuji. Is that right near? Like, can you see Mount Fuji from Tokyo, or is that a misleading picture that somebody posted on the internet?
I didn't have the chance to break away and go look for myself, but I understand that you can. Our itinerary was rather busy. Every morning was, typically starting between 7 and 8. And then, we were going into the evening, 5, 6 p.m. And then we would go grab, dinner together. So, you're with your group for, basically all day. You have a few hours in the evening, maybe of free time, but
Yeah.
by and large, it was a jam-packed trip. But it was great. It was really one good meeting after the next.
Yeah, and you were there like as part of the delegation, so you had a group of other American business folks and hemp people, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so it was a really incredible opportunity to get to know some of the people in the American market better. What they're trying to accomplish, what their needs are, how we can support each other, you know, um, what are we potentially able to export under this trade program, and how can we achieve that working together? Because at the end of the day, this industry comes down to scale. We're going to have to scale up the industry acreage in order to meet some of these larger players' needs. We know they're willing, but um,
So
it's going to take.
you do see export opportunities to Japan.
I can see it, but I think like many things in the hemp industry, I can see it in maybe 3 to 5 years. And I know we've been saying that for 3 to 5 years, and probably 3 to 5 before it. Um, but it definitely feels like there's traction, there's development, there is some funding coming in through different channels into our industry right now, um, which is, I believe, going to help us scale up and move forward in the future. And this opportunity is kind of an example of that. The RAP program is for promoting American agricultural products abroad. So maybe we can go find some people who'd be interested in the hemp over there.
Yeah, so it was a good trip. The NIHC put together a good group, and you all went there and you learned stuff and you spent time together, and then you've come home. Now you're back home and you still have the same amount of work to do, but you have all these wonderful memories of hemp in Japan. So there you go. Good job.
Well, thank you. And that is entirely fair to say. There are quite a few conference follow-ups going on now as well.
Yeah.
And trying to get the ball rolling forward now on some of the opportunities we think we might have found. So now we come back with some information, and we start reaching out to some of the farmers and processors that we
Mm-hmm.
know,
Right.
and different companies, maybe doing a short fiber, doing a long fiber. We were asked for some volumes of herd going over to Japan, because again, they import it, they don't grow it there, right? So if you want to do hemp building of any kind, you're going to need it from somewhere. So that comes down to, an export and some logistics, which is what we're used to doing anyways.
Yeah.
But you got to start small. You're not going to have any home runs right out of the gates, as they're quite cautious, and that's okay. Fair enough. But let's work with them and not be too pushy and say, hey, this is the direction we think we can go.
Hey, Robin, it's great to talk to you. I know you're busy. You got stuff to do. So thank you. I appreciate your time.
I appreciate being here. Thank you so much.
All right, there you go. Now we know a little bit more about hemp in Japan. If you want to learn more about Hemp Build Mag or Konopi US or the National Industrial Hemp Council of America, I've got links to those organizations on the show page for this episode at lancasterfarming.com. All right, so that's basically the show today, but I wanted to share something else with you. I received a package in the mail from a listener in California who sent me a marine band harmonica that has a 100% hemp plastic comb inside. And he says this was done using microfibrillated hemp cellulose, which is a patented process by Martin Ernig. I love this harmonica so much. It's very meaningful to me, obviously because I love hemp products, but also because it's a marine band harmonica. I am a musician and I started playing music. The first thing I picked up was a harmonica, and I always had one of these in my pocket. So anyway, thank you, Dennis, for sending this to me. I will play it with pride and joy. Thank you for listening to today's show. My name is Eric Herlock. I am the senior digital editor at Lancaster Farming Newspaper, the greatest agricultural newspaper in the world. Check us out online at lancasterfarming.com. If you have any questions or comments or concerns, send an email to podcast@lancasterfarming.com, and I'll get back to you. Okay, until next time, I'll see you in Montana. Yeah, that's right. I'm headed out to Montana on Sunday. Next week's show, I don't know what it's going to be. It might be from Montana. But anyway, we're going to play that by ear. So until next time, I'll see you in the newspaper. This episode of the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast is copyright 2024 by Lancaster Farming Newspaper, part of the Steinman Communications family. Today's show is written, recorded, edited, and produced by Eric Herlock, and the music you hear throughout the show is courtesy of Tinbird Shadow.
Industrial hemp.